If you wanted to get the whole story with all the receipts down to how the government photoshopped Civil War photos and the proof of it and everything in between, down to the laws to cover up which, what, and who's guilty and when it started, why the printing press year that it came out is important, we can tie the whole thing together.
They want us to think that we're an insignificant speck of dust, but let me tell you, we are so much more than dust in the wind.
At least 4 billion useless eaters will be eliminated by the year 2050.
I'm still waiting for somebody to show me gas pressure without a container.
I personally don't believe anything they say, right down to the God they claim they worship.
None of the math adds up.
You could stack up all their math books, all their science books, and even put all their degrees stacked up on top of that, and you still wouldn't be high enough to see the curvature.
This is exactly why grounding is so important.
We see too far.
We're just regular people who know we're being lied to. We're tired of it.
The bottom line is, there's only one choice left, and that's to dismantle this whole thing from the top down.
All right, so I don't even know. I guess to start, for people who don't know, explain what Tartaria is, basically, if somebody doesn't know by now.
That's like the hardest question that's going to be asked tonight. Nobody can actually say for sure. There's only one document historically that was penned by Tartarians from their side, from their point of view. Every other book, every other manuscript has been lost to time. Only one document was saved by the Chinese right around the year 1500, I believe, and it's called The Secret History of the Mongols. That manuscript isn't even fully translated at this point. Yeah. So what is Tartaria? If you ask somebody that's of Tartar ethnicity, they'll tell you it's a Western made-up word, that they're Tartars. And it's actually derogatory to people that claim to be Tartars to be called Tartarian. They like to be called Tartars. And they don't like to be categorized all as one. There's got to be 50 different types of Tartars, maybe 30, but there's a bunch. It's not just Crimean Tartars, Uzbekistan Tartars, Siberian Tartars. There was all different ethnicities of Tartars. But I think what we've come to the conclusion of what was Tartaria, though, because we see it written on the maps. So how's that not a country? But when you see Tartaria, but then Grand Tartaria, Minor Tartary, Chinese Tartary, Tibetan Tartary, well, there's all these different Tartaries inside of Tartaria. We're leaning towards it may have been like a collective, almost like what the USSR was or NATO is, maybe even not just militarily, but societally. They lived a much different life. European writers would write two different ways. You've got one that liked Tartarians and one that didn't like Tartarians. One might write it that they were the lawless people, but then another writer might elaborate and say they only had 10 laws written down and they didn't have a lot of door locks on common people's houses, leading the reader to assume there was a lot less crime there, that people didn't have to be taught not to murder. There was no sense to make that a law. People knew better. But some of the laws that they did have out of the 10, like you could only worship one God. Didn't matter what you name that God, one God. And writers wrote about all different religions being worshipped underneath one roof, being tolerated together. So you don't have door locks on your doors. You're all worshiping at the same time at the same place, just the different God names. And it was obviously a different way of life. But the nobility wrote about the Tartarians as though they were the ones bringing the laws to the lawless lands. So it depends on which writer at which time you get it from. But Tartaria seems like it was like an ideology almost.
Yeah, well, laws and lawlessness don't really, to me, go hand in hand, because we got a ton of laws in America, and look how many people follow them. So I mean, what I get from that is, like you said, they didn't need a lot of laws because people just acted right. And if you're happy, I mean, at least the view that I have of Tartaria, it could be wrong, I don't know, but it seemed like they had a different source of energy. They had these beautiful buildings, so they were clearly artistic and smart architects, good with math, builders, all this. So they seem like intelligent, enlightened people. So maybe that's why they didn't need all the laws. At least that's what I take from it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of a product of living in a high trust society too.
Yeah.
And so my question is, so is this ideology of Tartarism, was this something that was like spread worldwide?
Well, let's look at history and what's acknowledged through Wikipedia. Genghis Khan was the first emperor of Tartaria written down, although Wikipedia has him as the Mongol Empire. But most historical books that you'll read will tell you that Scythians, Mongols, Tartarians, and a couple of other ethnicities, Turks, all meant the same people. They're interchangeable. Just that's what they were called from a different perspective at a different time. Like we might call somebody, imagine 1,000 years from now, they read back about American history. It might be a Southerner or, a Floridian. Like the writer and the reader may not be on the same level of understanding what that common terminology meant at the time.
Right.
But because it's so covered up and so omitted from history books for the most part, in 1202 AD, Genghis Khan was he was crowned the first emperor of Tartaria, the first emperor of Asia. And if you look at how much land he acquired in his lifetime, there's no way with the fastest horses in the world, he could have went to every single one of those towns and every single one of those capitals and had that much territory fall beneath his feet.
Yeah.
Let alone some of the battles took several months. So basically, if you look at the history of it, there was the Khitanni Empire. I believe there was 12 or 24 kingdoms that paid tribute to the Khitanni Empire, run by John Prester John. We're told he's a mythical character, but he's written about very clearly by many historian writers, which we'll name a couple of the big ones later, like Bishop Caprini in 1253 AD was sent as an emissary to Tartaria by Pope Innocent IV to ask for peace. And he wrote a whole manuscript on his travel there and back. But even he writes these words as well. But Genghis Khan in 1202 AD fought a religious tax against a religion that wasn't even his. So this is unfair. He won the first battle completely outnumbered. So other nomads got together and said, he's a great general. We should follow him because what he's doing is right. So they went and they overthrew Prester John, and all of a sudden the lands came underneath Genghis Khan's control. And then more and more and more and more just started to join in at a rate that it's impossible to have been done with horse and without telecommunications, unless word was just spreading and empires were saying, we want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And one of the 10 laws they had, another one, was that if there was a ruler and he wasn't good to his people, you've removed him ruthlessly. Like with no mercy whatsoever. That's one of the 10 laws they had written down.
We need to follow that today. We need to bring that in.
So that kind of answers my question, because in the history, the Mongols and Genghis Khan are kind of written out to be like one of the most brutal, brutal groups of people, and
heads
kind
on
of like
stakes and crap.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So. But then now you say if there's someone else who's not ruling in the way that they think is right, then they got to take him out.
Yeah, and Genghis Khan was brutal. He was absolutely brutal, but he was absolutely written to be one of the most fair and just. That the court system that they had was known to be one of the most benevolent. And this is European writers in the 14th and 15th century writing this, with books endorsed by the nobility. So what would happen, a traveler would go out and then go to Tartaria, write down their their travels and what they saw, and they would come back. But if they wanted to write that book in honor of their queen, their duchess, their duke, whatever it was, they had to give a copy of that book to that royalty first. And the royalty, they would have their best and brightest go over to make sure that it was factual. And sometimes they would even write letters of approval, which would also be printed in the books. So nobility at the time had written that this is what was true, this is what was going on. Unfortunately, they undid it later on, but they were very fair, very just. And if you look at the leaders of Tartaria, it was pretty much Genghis Khan's bloodline. The size of the empire that it was, and as fast as it grew, one would have to assume that they were doing things the right way at the speed that it went, because just because you have one person in one town in one place doesn't mean that that empire can't just assassinate that one person. People were happy to have this type of governance come in, and when they did remove a bad ruler, in the books they wrote, a new governor was instituted, a more fair and righteous one. So that's kind of what their whole goal was, that they wanted people to be ruled fairly and justly and to work together, leading more towards that. It was a bit of an ideology to be a Tartarian.
More of an ideology than a bloodline or whatever. I mean, I'm sure it started as a bloodline. But before we go further, there's two things I want to ask. You were talking about you only read books at a certain age. Where do you find your books, man? It's so hard to find old books. I try. The only ones I see are like, I mean, I go to bookstores and shit too, but the only ones I see you can buy are on eBay. And because it's an old book, they're like, I want $2,000 for it. Like, I don't even know anything about it. Like, maybe it's worth that. I don't have that, but maybe it's worth that. But I don't know from online. So where do you get yours?
Right.
I like archives. Even if I have to go to another nation's archive and use a translator to search through them. When it comes to Tartaria and Tartary, Russia is one of my favorite places to search. So a lot of the websites end up being .ru or something, but a lot of archives, even like the Internet Archive, I would say 50% of all the books I've read come from there, because everybody is sticking something on there. And when I check the books there, you'll see like this book has been looked at 23 times, this one 76 times, and it's like nobody's stumbling across these, but people are also searching for Tartaria. Yeah. Try searching for Tartary or Tartar in these archives, and you'll have a plethora more of information pop up.
Note taken. I literally am writing that down because I check all the time. I mean, I go through our government archives and crap like that, the CIA archives and the whatever the hell is the one they put out to the public. I can't think of it right now, but you know which one I'm talking about. And
you could also search Scythian. You could search Scythian. You could search Mongolian. You could search Mongol. They were written down by all different various names. But they're all synonymous with the one same empire and the same bloodline.
So the other thing I wanted to ask is, I know a lot of people post about this. I've never been there, so I can't say for myself because you can reverse crap. But with the Great Wall of China, how the openings are on the China side, saying that people would be shooting that way. What do you think about all that?
That's one of the biggest mysteries there is. This is a theory by several different writers. Writers back in the day talked about the Great Wall of China, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. It was written. It was even drawn. They have engravings of it. Although the engravings show it to be in great disrepair in the 1400s, big cracks, veins growing all over it. But I digress. The wall is written about that the Tartarian armies had marched through the 26 gates 13 times unopposed. So why would you allow an army to walk through a wall, which also on the ramparts of the wall are written that these are the ramparts of Gog and Magog, which was the capital of Tartaria. But it almost looks like it was refurbished, reused. Yeah. Like maybe it was pre-Diluvian. It was older by the oldest drawings of it. Or it was built by the Tartarians or the Chinese almost like a giant open air prison. Because if the defensive structures were backwards and the Tartarians were allowed to walk through it, The only thing it was really doing was stopping the Chinese from leaving. So, but it was also written by some of the same writers that it was very rare for a Chinese person to be able to walk through the gate. And if they did, they were counted and numbered. So I don't know what that means, but apparently back then they did.
Well, what I heard, and again, I'm not saying this is fact. It's just going along with what you say. You hear stuff that they were putting basically the criminals, the ones who wouldn't follow the rules, on the China side. And that might be why they were numbering them or keeping track of them when they came back in, because I guess supposedly, like, we sent criminals to Australia, which I don't believe that either. But who knows? I'm just saying that's what I've heard. And when you said that, it kind of sparked that memory in me. So I don't know if you've heard anything about that or if I'm shit crazy.
I don't try to give my perspective too often, but what I've come across from all the writers and everything that I've ever come across, I think it was the world's largest open air prison.
On which side? On the China side?
I think it was the Chinese keeping the Chinese in. Like, they didn't want to lose their people, but I don't think they built the wall.
I mean, obviously it served an important purpose, because look at that thing. I mean... Yeah.
Dude, you can see it from space.
The work that I... I see it right now, guys. Look, it's right over there.
It's right down there. No, I'm just kidding. But
no, it's crazy.
Well, yeah, so I don't know.
Architectural feat, to say the least.
Yeah, either the Tartarians built it to defend from the Chinese, even though the Tartarians were the greater of the warriors by far. It just by far. Or they repurposed it and they found it like it's pre-Diluvian, hence why the earliest drawings and depictions of it show it in a state of ruin.
Yeah,
it's really hard to say, but Tartaria probably goes back a lot further. A year ago, I would have told you that the beginning of Tartaria was 1200 AD. When Genghis Khan united the nomadic tribes, but Tartarians had been around prior to that. They're written about in the Bible. Tartarus, by the ancient Greeks, they're basically told that Tartarus is a place of hell, that you don't want to go there because that's where bad stuff is. They were trying to keep their people from finding what was a better way of life, I believe. Like, almost like propaganda in the 80s that, oh, the USSR, they're the evil empire. Yeah. We kind of look like we're the evil empire now. Like, the role has been reversed.
Kinda?
So who actually really knows?
I mean, it's a tough sell. So do you... I mean, we don't have to get into this now. Maybe you had it planned down the road to tie in. I don't know. But what do you think about... Because you were saying earlier how a lot of religions would congregate in the same building or whatever. And a lot of people say that cathedrals back then weren't religious buildings or a church. They were places of energy, which I guess if you're going there to worship one thing, it could still be that. But do you know anything about that whole theory, or how do you feel about that?
Oh, this is where I lose everybody.
Yeah.
So
you did tell me you had a different spin, so I'm happy to hear it for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the big one first that goes along with that. Tamerlane, 5 generations down from Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan's great grandson. Tamerlane, he's the one that defeated Babylon. If you go and check his accomplishments and what he had done, I'm sorry, I pulled the memory thing. What was the question one more time?
The cathedrals, how you feel about if they're energy places or what?
There's only one writing that I've ever found out of every book I've ever read about the Tartarians constructing anything large, and that was Tamerlane in the 1500s, but he needed 95 elephants to pull the stone blocks on machines. They don't describe the machine or what the machine did. It could just be a cart with 4 wheels.
Yeah.
But 95 elephants at, what is it, Jay? 5,000 pounds per elephant was what the average pulling power was. And talking almost 500,000 pounds, 450,000 pounds or something like that worth of pulling capacity. But they don't say what he was building or what it was. Just that it was that massive. But
also, they like to destroy a lot of stuff, so we don't. Yeah, that's the bad part. Like maybe that's the one piece that they let through because I believe they have to tell you something. And they're like, yeah, he built something. We're not going to let you know what, but he built something.
Piece of stone, 400,000 pounds to 500,000 pounds in weight. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
On a machine, which is meant to make the weight easier to transfer from A to B. But for the most part, 99% of all writings that I've seen, the Tartarians claim they never built these buildings. Just
were
like
they already there, or do you think the buildings didn't exist?
The Tartarians called them the old cities.
So they were already
that
there.
Was specific. They were already there. And if you go to like the book, The Seven Kings of Rome on page 423, the second or third paragraph down, you'll see that the Romans had often contemplated who built the buildings as well. They didn't know who built them back then either. So that's why I think a lot of this stuff is pre-Diluvian, goes back even further. And I think that's why Tartaria isn't censored on the internet like, say, Flat Earth is.
Yeah.
Because the majority of Tartaria uploaders are misleading everybody, maybe not intentionally, but you've got these beautiful pictures of the old world, this Roman Greco style, sometimes Gothic cathedrals popping up with this alluring music. And everybody's like, you're right, they had to be a highly advanced society. But when you stop and look at these buildings and the materials and the locations where they're built, it's impossible. Like the Lincoln Memorial, for an example.
That's never crossed my mind once. You just
the Lincoln Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
The Lincoln Memorial was built in a swamp before the swamp was drained. There was no road to the building. Now, they just rediscovered the basement to the Lincoln Memorial, 20 years ago? You forgot you had a basement? You never sent an inspector down to find out if it was leaking water? And this is where it gets really crazy. So it's 300 feet from the Potomac River. It's in the middle of a swamp, but the basement goes 90 feet down, and it's standing on pillars. Like those memes you see, like the building's going way underground.
Right.
But yeah, the Lincoln Memorial does, and they only just rediscovered that basement. But so it's built in an impossible location in a swamp with all that groundwater all around you. There's no way to hold back that hydraulic pressure 90 feet down by what they had in the late 1800s. It's not going to happen. But then on top of it, look at the materials that it's built out of. It's built out of marble, white marble. Anybody that's ever had a remodeling project done at their house has had one of those marble thresholds put right before their bathroom door. I was a contractor. I remember carrying one through Home Depot, and I didn't carry it properly. I didn't carry it vertically. I was carrying it flat. It crumbled in my hands. Now imagine going to a statue with a hammer and a chisel and trying to get this without any fracturing, anything going wrong. It's almost like they're made so perfect in such delicate materials in the most impossible locations. Like it's supposed to be a sign that it can't be done by man.
Yeah, they say that they're uncovering the basement, but this thing, when they uncover it, I'm sure you've all seen the pictures, or I don't know if anyone has one handy, but it's obvious that this was not built to be a basement, but it was built at some point to be displayed.
Yeah, on ground level.
I mean, who puts windows under
and decorative pillars
the ground straight into the dirt?
If there's one thing, I mean, the government does like to spend money, but from working in contracting and shit my whole life, if something's gonna be hidden or underground or anything, you never make it decorative, because decorative always costs more. There's no reason. So why does this shit look all decorative if it was the basement level? And why does it have windows? That's the big one, the windows. But yeah. So yeah, I never once
look at the dirt.
Yeah, I never once thought about, and it shows you. So I'll never say I was a normie, but I was like, I just went with the flow. Like, I knew 9/11 was messed up, and I was like, keep going. It's some government crap. Yeah, whatever. Keep going, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I guess 15 years now I've been noticing stuff, but it never crossed my mind to think to the next level. Like, my brain is, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, Tartaria was before us. Those buildings were awesome. It was them. I never thought to go, maybe they inherited it also, like we did. Never once crossed my mind until you said it,
dude. I just had that epiphany too, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it really does get crazy, because the further you look back for the answers, when you think like, oh, I found them, but then it only leads to, okay, so the capital of the United States looks like the capital of Canada, which looks like the capital of Australia, which looks like the capital of Germany, which looks like the capital of Taiwan, which looks like the capital of like Uzbekistan. So it's like the same designing fingerprint, to the architect. So as I was going back further and further and further, it was JSpace where we finally like really came to a conclusion that what are the oldest books saying? The oldest books. And if you go, who built Solomon's temple? Ask Google. They'll tell you that demons built it. Okay, we'll go to Islam. And then, who built the temples? And they say it was 72 demons and they know their names. Now go back to ancient India and go through their text. How did Vishnu build the temples? He controlled demons. So you start going back and all of a sudden you go, no, wait a second. But it almost ties into today. Because when they talk about who built Solomon's temple, there was like 3 names that were interchangeable with this demon, like Beelzebub. Basically, it was Moloch. Apparently, Moloch was under control by Solomon because he got a ring with a pentagram from God. And somehow he was tricked through sex or something, beautiful women, to crush a couple of beetles as a sacrifice to Moloch, 5 or 6 beetles. And then he fell out of God. And God was really upset about this. But somehow Moloch had tricked his way out of servitude of building these buildings. And if you look at the Freemasons today, who they worship and where they put these giant owls, depictions of Moloch and Bohemian Grove, and look at the cities, the old pictures of like Moscow, a beautiful whole city just built. There's no people around. Maybe there was supposed to be no people around to see who was really building it. Like maybe they're still in control of this in one way, because if they were able to do it back then, maybe they could still do it now. And I'm not trying to sell everybody on the whole demons thing, but it's the most plausible thing that I've come up with, that the oldest religious books might be right.
You don't have to sell anyone. Well, I mean, I can't speak for them, but you ain't got to sell me on demons, man. I'm in firm belief that everything that's going on are from the fallen. Everything's about the fallen angels that came down here, spawned the Nephilim. All of that, I believe they're still alive today, causing trouble. You don't have to tell me about demons. The aliens, aliens,
a bunch of people.
Aliens are demons. That's what they are. Period. To me, and that's why they're trying to sell us on Project Bluebeam, is because they have to say, "Hey, look, the demons are good. They're gonna save us," and people are gonna go, "Yes, demons," and that's it. I know.
Yeah,
put on my tinfoil hat.
The Freemasons claim that they've got the knowledge of how the buildings were built and how to do them, and that they can do it, and they still worship Moloch today. That's where I landed with my research. That's my firm belief right now, although it's open and subject to change. I once thought the world was round.
Exactly. That's the difference.
It's almost like we're
us.
spawned. It's almost like we're spawned onto like a pre-made map in a video game.
Yeah. So actually,
I mean, like,
how do you feel about the orphan trains and the Cabbage Patch doll thing with that? Because we know they had the baby incubators at the World Fair and crap, because there's pictures of them. I mean, I can believe that, at least I hope. So something happened, Jay, they repopulated the area.
Jay, if you could bring up from my profile the first movie, just put first movie. So the first movie ever made was a silent film called The Fairy of the Cabbages. Now, it doesn't get credit for being the first movie ever made because it was supposedly lost, but then it was accidentally refound and still hasn't gained credit for. But now the movie is of a woman, and she's walking around a giant cabbage patch, and she is plucking babies out of the patch and showing them to a potential purchaser. And then, like, I don't like that when they take the live baby and drop it kind of hard. Like it's a little brutal to watch, but you have to stop. And like finally, she ends up picking a baby that she likes, and she purchases the baby. But it's a silent movie, so there's no words. This is just the story.
You get
see.
what's going on, though. Yeah. Do you have it, Jason?
But
yeah, I already have it downloaded.
Yeah, but now this movie,
do you have it ready for me to pull up to play?
Yeah.
Oh.
All
right. I'll add you
let's
to the
post
stage.
it up.
Let's go. You the man.
Thank you, Jay.
I think that's when the storks come to pick them up and take them to their rightful owners.
Yeah, I saw
Now,
that
there's
when
a
you
part
posted
two.
it. Now that I saw it, I was like, damn, that's right.
There is a part two to that where they sell the babies white and black at like what looks like a lemonade stand, and like the woman actually comes up and purchases them. But now, in order for them to make a silent movie, the people of the time had to understand what was going on. It couldn't have just been like, "What is this?
What is
Cabbages?"
this? Yeah, good point.
Right.
But then they fed
true.
into it. And think about when we were kids, about our generation. They were putting stuff in movies and musicals for our grandparents that were reminiscent with them. Like Five Goes West. He was the little orphan mouse. How about Annie, the musical?
Yeah, everybody was orphans. Yeah.
Yes, there was lots of Orphan Train references when we were really small kids, but that was just for the transition period from our grandparents to basically where we are. And now they're doing it from where we are. They're putting stuff in movies for us, into our kids' movies. And it's going to keep evolving. But at some point, everybody understood exactly what was going on. And then Cabbage Patch Babies ended up being a spin-off from it. Like, our grandparents and parents wanted, us to have that memory too. Like, oh, this was cute when I was a kid. And it ended up trickling down. But the whole thing with the incubators, if you go back to the oldest newspaper articles and you search for infantoriums, is what they were actually called back in the day. You'll notice that they had a protocol that it was during the tuberculosis scares. They would take these babies and they would take them from people's homes. And they would say, your babies are safer with us than they are in your own home. Or you could come give us your baby. But all these babies we have, we're going to leave them outside on the grass overnight because it's good for them. And it strengthens them and protects them from tuberculosis. These are strong kids. These ones are grown outdoors.
Isn't that actually where kindergarten came from? Because they would put the babies out in the garden and lay them out there. And that's what it came from,
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
But we've completely omitted that from our culture now. There's only remnants of it left, but it wasn't that long ago, 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that's why grounding is so important.
You just got to throw that in everywhere, dude. That's why grounding's so important. I love it, man.
Hey, Jay, can you bring up the Tartarian grounding boots or the Tartarian boots?
Oh, nice.
It's like
Yeah, my kids don't even wear shoes. Like, they barely wear shoes. I can't keep shoes on my kids.
I forget, but these are like 2,000-year-old Tartarian
Dude,
boots.
I've actually seen these before. We had Matt Rife on the show, and somehow we brought up these boots, these Tartarian grounding boots. And we were I think Ted was telling him that he needs to make some grounding boots.
I think you told him.
And he was like,
"Oh,
it's super easy to read, or it's super easy to make." I think I brought it up and you told him, but he's like, you can just use copper rivets and have them go all the way through your shoe and through the sole and everything.
Makes
and
sense.
you just got grounding boots like that.
Such a good idea.
Yeah, if that had a Nike logo on it, I'd rock them to the mall.
Boom.
It's so funny because with the picture up, now that I can't see you, it's like listening to you in a space and I go right back, but seeing your face makes it totally different. It's a little weird. But yeah, those are awesome. I would rock those, man. I don't care. I have no shame. If they're grounding me, I'm ready to go. But unfortunately, I live in a damn city. So luckily, I have a giant yard. So I have plenty of room to ground. But even if you were barefoot most of your day, you would never touch the ground, ever. Ever. Because you're on concrete, your concrete slab of your house if you live in any new building, the asphalt of the road, the sidewalks, back in another building, everywhere. You're never touching the ground ever. And I don't know if it's intentional, but I know it's a happy byproduct of what they're doing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know most parents are. My kids earlier today asked to go outside. It's kind of cold out. It's probably 35, 40 outside. And most parents are like, all right, make sure you get your jacket and your shoes on. Well, I told them the jacket part, but I was like, no, don't wear your shoes, guys. Get out there and get in the dirt a little bit.
I mean, nobody does that anymore. I don't have kids, so I don't know, but I know I look at my nieces and nephews, and luckily, my brother's wife, there's no other way to say it. She's a hippie. Like, I've seen her tell her kids, like, don't rip the grass. It has feelings too. And I'm like, get her, yeah. So they ground all the time. She's always, go outside. get in the grass, go play. So that's awesome. But other kids, they're not only are they not grounding, they're attached to an electric device that's plugged in that's feeding them bad things, period. So they're getting it the opposite. But I digress. We're getting away from Tartaria. So what I don't even know where to go from here, man. There's so much. I don't even know what the next step is. So what, I'm sure this will lead into planning. Why do you think that they keep this from us? Why don't you think this was taught in schools? I mean, there's tons of stuff they don't teach us in school, but this should seem like something harmless. It's a past civilization. Why don't we know about it?
I think it comes down to a battle between good and evil. As crazy as that is, the deeper you get into it, the root of it is that it was Tartaria versus the West, the European warlike colonists. Babylon was brought up a lot. The rift between Babylon and Tartaria was brought up. The sacking of Babylon was brought up, and where the leaders from it went, they went to Europe. And if you think about it, right around, so in the year 711, Spain and North Africa was invaded by the King Tyrus, the Tyrians. The Tyrians ruled that area until 1492. So the Spanish, we say that they kicked the Moors out in 1492, but we renamed civilizations. Yeah. But the Tyrians, the Moors, were kicked out of Spain with the Jews in 1492, which meant that while it was run under Tartaric rule, there was all these religions together living peacefully. It wasn't until Spain regained its independence, they kick them out, but then magically discover the America and send conquistadors down to start ravaging through it.
I was going to say that year sounded familiar.
It seems like in 1492, that was the turning point where, for me, I know people think it goes back further or there's missing time periods, which we can get into that later. But what happened right around 1492? The printing press, the new Bible, the King James Bible. Yep. We went from Celsius to Fahrenheit, metric to standard, Old English to New English. The world is now round. The world is now officially round.
Yeah.
Everything had been. How do you keep control of a colony? Originally, they were called plantations. But how do you keep control of a colony from outpacing you? You hold them back spiritually, mentally, and every possible way you can. You dumb down.
Right.
Yes.
And there's a paper trail historically to all of it. And lastly, the only entity within the United States that cannot be charged by any law whatsoever is the Smithsonian Institute. That was a federal. If you just look up Smithsonian Court in my Twitter feed, you'll see that I think it was 2017. It's been announced that even if they commit murder, we cannot charge Smithsonian for anything.
I gotta see
look
this
at who runs it.
Because I don't trust Smithsonian anyway. Because they're the ones who cover up dinosaurs, or well, not cover up dinosaurs, create dinosaurs, cover up giants. In my mind, that's what they do. But I didn't know they couldn't get charged for anything. Because that, if this is recent, that makes me feel like some truths are gonna come out that they could possibly be charged for, and that's why. Did Rufus's camera freeze up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, but
dude, my whole StreamYard's kind of frozen up here. It's actually been like that for a minute here. That's why I've been trying to figure it out.
Messed up. I've just been like, damn, Rufus must be really high. He's just smiling.
He's getting after it. No, dude, I'm trying to figure this shit out. It's frozen. So I'm gonna have to dip out and then I'll come back in. I think I have to reset the computer because it won't even let me exit out of it.
I'll keep my eye open. I'll let you back in as soon as you're here.
All right.
We're getting ready to switch to the other screen anyway. So you good? Go now.
Word.
But yeah, as of 2017, the Smithsonian, by United States Supreme Court ruling, can be held applicable to no U.S. laws.
What?
Wow.
Oh, whoever pulled that up, thank you.
That was Jason. You know you can talk some too, Jason. I'm just saying.
I wasn't sure if y'all could hear me. I'm trying to not loud cap because this is a brand new mic and I'm testing it on the fly.
You good? That's the first time I've heard you. But damn, that's insane.
Well, also in that, but also in there somewhere it'll tell you who runs the Smithsonian. It's like the Chief Justice of the United States is first, the Vice President is second, and like the head of something else is third. Like but it's a private organization. It's not even a government entity, yet it's held applicable to no U.S. laws. Mind blowing. Like, this is how much history is distorted and protected. They try to protect the narrative with everything they got.
I love. Let me just tell you right now. This is why I started this podcast. Why we started this is because I learned already 3-4 things that I've never heard in my life today. And now, what happened here? Okay, I don't know why he dropped out. So yeah, I'm learning so much new crap. I had no clue that existed.
Oh yeah, we're deep. Me and Jay, literally, there's so much to go over, so in depth. We try to get together like almost sometimes 8 to 12 hours a day on Tuesdays, Tartaria Tuesdays, trying to hash stuff out because there's just so much. We need more people to get into it. Like, we can't do it by ourselves. We need more minds. But yeah, we're in a circle.
I wish I had one to offer you, bro. I'm just kidding. Mine's full up with flat Earth stuff. No, it's not completely. But I mean, this is the next thing I've been looking at this, and I pretty much, I definitely know that it was a civilization. I just don't know anywhere near as much about it as you do, and I love that. It's awesome.
Well, it's like this. Just keep this in mind. Tartaria seems to tie into everything. In fact, even recently, Pete dug up Tartarian stuff about the firmament.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, the Tartarian knew they lived underneath of a firmament. So be like a Tartarian and know you live under a firmament. I love that.
That's just a better way to be.
T-shirt.
That needs to be like his. Yeah, that's why I was telling him that needs to be like his slogan.
Yeah, Jake, can you bring up the canal post? So, what's the longest canal in the world? It's in China, right? It's got like
real quick. I got that part pulled up about who controls the Smithsonian.
Oh yeah, please. Yeah, thank you, man. This is why I love Jay.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean,
they meet
totally
at least
not
4
awesome.
times.
Yeah, actually,
keep in mind this is
read it, Jason, for anybody who's listening audio. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
The video.
Yeah, you're good. Congress vested responsibility for the administration of the Smithsonian and a board of regents consisting of the Chief Justice of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, 3 members of the United States Senate, 3 members of the United States House of Representatives, and 9 citizens. The Board of Regents meets at least 4 times each year and typically convenes in the Regents' room.
Awesome.
That's who runs the private Smithsonian.
And 9 citizens.
Wait. Look, you gotta look into the Regents' room now. That's a whole nother rabbit hole too.
Jeez.
The Regents' room.
Well,
I'm not going to spoil the Regents' room. That's when you gotta go check on.
Check that yourselves. We'll go too far, man. I already know that it'll go too deep. We got to stay at least somewhat on pace here. You always bringing up rabbit holes, man. All right, Rufus still isn't back. So, yeah, man. So what got you into looking into this?
I wanted to know what I was missing. Something was wrong. I think we all feel it ever since I was a kid. Just something didn't fit right. I knew I was being lied to about something. And my adopted dad gave me a book called Behold the Pale Horse by some dude named William Cooper when I was like 16. And he was like, if you're going to live in my house, you have to understand how we think because you're going to think we're weird. And like, he had this like big, crazy water filter and stuff. Awesome. And like the tubes going everywhere. And I was like, okay, they're a little weird, but at least they're not like trying to like sell my labor on the street. Like, go to work and give us your pay. It could have been worse. He wanted me to read a book. So I read the book, and then that book set me on a path to know the truth. Like, what am I being lied to about? And I kept landing on history. Something is wrong with history. Something is wrong. The pyramids always allured me. And then one thing led to another, and it's like, oh, it all ties to a battle of good and evil.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what angle I decide to dissect it from, like Genghis Khan, we didn't go over this yet. He's Jay.
Uh-oh.
And now this is written by monarchs and kings and queens of Europe. And they proclaimed that he was the king of kings, that he was the prince of princes, and the bringing the rule of law to lands that had never seen it before. So they spoke very, very highly of him while he was in power and reigning. But then once the empire was able to be defeated, the advent of gunpowder, which to get into that we'll get into that later, but it all ties back to like biblical stuff. No matter how you slice it, history keeps going back to there, and it looks like the mainstream institutions and government entities are trying to keep us from our real past. And I think if they do it, because if we saw how good it was before and how tolerant it was in the past, and how every ethnicity and different languages and different cultures and different religions in one town worshiping under the same roof, if we knew what it could be like, we might aspire for that again. But they need to keep us divided. So they're the benevolent ones. The best that's ever been has been under them, and anything else is just demonized.
That's crazy.
Rufus.
By the way, I got that canal stuff pulled up.
Oh
yeah. So, what's the largest canal on Earth?
I don't know, honestly.
It's the Grand Canal in China, built around the 1200s. You know, the different articles place it at different times, but it was built by the grandson of Genghis Khan. But the thing about it is it had like 26 different locks. It had elevators for the boats, bridges in the 1200s.
Wow.
Was there anything in those documents about them, the curvature of the Earth being taken into account in creating that canal? Or
well, the Tartarians knew that they lived under a firmament. They actually wrote about it, and they knew that they lived under it. So I'm pretty sure the Tartarians knew that the world was flat.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a firmament, I don't know how else to take it. So what is that else? What is that there? I can't read it.
Kublai, being informed that the barks which brought to court the tribute of the southern provinces were carried on the trade of the empire by sea, often suffered shipwreck. He caused the great canal to be made. It is 300 leagues in length, above 9,000 imperial barks transport with ease and at a small expense. The tribute of grain, stuffs, etc., which is annually paid to the emperor. Had this been the only advantage this prince procured for China, he would have been worthy of the high praises which the Chinese give him.
Now, that's Kublai Khan. That's the grandson of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan reigned about 1202 onward. Is that the Wikipedia right there? Yeah, and as you can see, like Wikipedia still even has Kublai Khan as, you know, the person that did this. But if you look at, forget the bloodline, forget that he was Tartarian, you made a canal 1,000 miles long with how many locks and bridges? So you had a bridge that a boat could go across, just so somebody could send you a tribute?
Right.
This is just amazing that we don't talk about this a little bit more, because if we have this on Wikipedia and we haven't covered this up, because it's too hard to cover up. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
There.
That's
so
why
it said right in there. It said right in there that they use like cart and horse and buggy to carry the grains. But then, how the hell did they even build this canal to begin with?
How did they pump water? How did
Ridiculous.
they pump water up? Bridges with boats going across. Like, could you imagine? But that was Tartaria. Now, I don't believe that they actually built that. I think that in the amount of time, because if you look at what it says, like that emperor built it in that time frame, It's impossible for them to have done that in that time frame, 1,000 miles long.
Yeah.
But I do think that it would be more feasible that they went in and dredged out a stone canal that had been there existing in that amount of time. Like it was
Just
found.
like the railroads, how they dug them up.
Oh yeah, I've done a couple threads on that too.
Tell us a little bit about that for the people who don't know. That's a good one.
I was gonna say,
that
what
one
about
hit me.
what
That
about
one
the
hit me
railroads?
hard. When I saw the old freaking photos, I was like, son of a bitch.
Dude, if they tell me that the interstates were already there too.
I mean, the only way that's possible is if they put their crappy asphalt on top of what was there, because what's there definitely has not been there for that long, because that shit's always
Right.
falling
Dude,
apart and
I
crumbling.
mean, what else are we paying our taxes for? You know,
I know, but if we
Those
stop paying
roads.
taxes, who would take care of the roads? It's my favorite.
Every
ever.
time, dude.
I
They
know.
say it every time.
It is.
All right.
Hey, I got y'all some pictures pulled up from the railroads.
Here we go. Yep. So tell us
This
about
was,
these, Pete, or whoever. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the post said these were labeled as freshly laid, but you know, once you examine the pictures further on, you'll see
You can
different.
tell. That's from the Library of Congress.
That's what I was trying to think of before, Library of Congress.
Whoa.
When I was like, you know what I meant when I was Library of Congress. But yeah, did that say digging out? Yep. Yeah.
That's crazy. I've never seen this before.
Yeah. When I
Notice
What were they
how
digging
the
up there
skies
in
were
that
lighted
last
out.
picture?
It looks
Notice
like
how
they
the
were digging
skies
up
were
a
lighted.
mud flood.
Were they just excavate? Yeah, that's what it looked like. And then they just found those railroad ties under
Yeah.
there.
They're like,
That's
oh, here
crazy.
they are.
Just like the basement of the Lincoln Memorial.
Oh, I got something pulled up for that too. Hold up. Here's the Lincoln Memorial being dug out. That's the swamp it was.
Now there's
located
the Lincoln Memorial finished. No roads going to it in the middle of a swamp.
When is that from?
That's the oldest, not the oldest, but I think 1898, I believe. If you can screenshot it and reverse image search it, it'll definitely pull up.
Wow.
But Jay, can you go to the next one? Now they're draining it and putting a road in.
Another thing to point out, this is a daytime photo, and it almost looks like there's a luminary in the background.
I have to have the whole thing small on my screen because I'm recording, so it's only like 4 inches by 5 inches. But I see
So
a
is
little-
the
I see a little
statue of-
bit.
or
oh,
is
there
the-
it is. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
And there's no Lincoln statue installed yet.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. Like you'd think it
Hmm.
was if we put it up that the Lincoln.
It's
statue
just
would
the
be in there.
memorial right now. All right.
That's
Oh,
sitting
yeah,
on
that's
90-foot columns going into that swamp before they had a road. That's the basement that they rediscovered by accident. They
Oh,
forgot
what,
existed.
dude?
Hold on. Go back. Go back. Show us the basement again. That's crazy, man. Come on.
Dude, I didn't know this. This is crazy.
Oh, you didn't know this? Dad?
No, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
We should be having more phone calls, man. I mean, I didn't know all of it, but like I knew about the train tracks and this, but damn, he's got all the photos.
It looks like a pristine building in the middle of a swamp. What the fuck?
Yeah, no roads, and they somehow managed to give it a 90-foot basement sitting on columns
Yeah.
With water at ground level. How do you do
and
that?
a river 300 feet behind it, a football field away behind it.
Jeez.
It's just it's impossible.
I mean, the only answer is that the topography is just of the Earth has changed immensely over time. Do you see?
That's
They
all
even
it
found.
is,
Do you know
man.
anything about like the different pyramids and stuff that they found under the ocean, and giant statues and those type of things?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Of course. My God. What are we looking at?
Yeah,
there?
and
Man.
the basement that you don't see, it actually goes out further than the building.
Wow.
But that's like
The
the side view of
basement.
what it would look. It's huge. I think it's like 400,000 square feet or something, or 44,000 square feet. It's really big, whatever it is.
So what purpose does that serve anyways? I mean, you'd think that they wouldn't go through all the trouble of building a basement like that in the middle of a swamp if it didn't have a purpose.
Rufus, these seem to be the support columns for the whole structure that you're seeing right here.
Okay.
Based on my limited knowledge of architecture, I was just the grunt that threw up the drywall and painted it.
Yeah, but if you start thinking about stuff like the intercontinental, the transatlantic cables, if you go to Wikipedia and search what year the first one was laid, like you'll see that Jay's got maps where the whole world had been wired prior to the first one historically being laid. So it's clear that it was there before. So what was it, 1864? They claimed the first one was done, yet Jay's got a map of 1858 where they had even wired Siberia, which was the capital of Tartaria. That's where Genghis Khan was from originally.
Damn.
Weird how out in the middle of nowhere where it's not habitable for human habitation, they've already got it wired up. Every continent, with the exception of, the outer ice wall, was wired together. And we still use these cables today, I think. I know we say that we've played more and more, but...
What year is this from?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So we said 1858?
I believe the map is from 1858. Jay will have to zoom in on that one there.
On this one?
It's the one where every continent is wired together. It's in that thread. But that's why I say, like,
1857 or 1858.
No, it just doesn't do it for me.
1858. Here we go.
Crazy. And what year? What year did they claim they did it? Because it's way after that, right?
Yeah, I think they claimed
1966.
1866.
Okay.
Yeah, but even still, 1866 for the first one to be laid, yet you've got another map showing the whole world.
Right.
I think you just discovered that one that year, but meanwhile, someone else somewhere had a map to all of them, from a previous point in time. Like, when you conquer an empire, I imagine some of this information you wouldn't want your conquerors to come across. You'd probably want to bury some of your railroads. You'd probably want to hide some of your own infrastructure. So you don't want to give all your secrets to your conquerors and leave all your technology right out in the open. I imagine the Tartaria burned a bunch of their own books.
Hey, Keith.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them about this map we were talking about the other day?
Is that the one? I don't think that's the exact one. But here, if you look at this map, a lot of times there's more information in front of our faces than we know. The time this map was drawn, less than 1% of the world was literate. So the images that were drawn on it have a lot of information. The cartographers trying to describe to you what the cities look like. And if you notice, the inhabitants of these cities before they were colonized, they had star forts. They had buildings aligned in rows, sometimes aligned with true north. Yet we were told most of these people didn't even know what magnetism was. Jay's even got a map where a Cherokee reservation, they show like the women's library or the women's dormitorium, and they show the buildings with like big curved arched walls like protruding outwards, aligned with true north. And we're told that the Indian reservations were just raw land that they had, yet all of a sudden you can see that they had whole cities built. And I doubt that the conquerors came in and built illiterate people libraries to settle into. But when you notice around in the maps, looking at the artwork also tells a story. Sometimes you can see a boat firing on a city, a cannonball, and it'll show like, one type of flag on one boat and one type on another. Like these are contested waters here. Or you'll see on the shoreline a cross, but on the inside of the fort, a crescent moon. We're trying to bring Christianity here. So the symbolism in the maps is super important. And not just the maps, the old engravings and pictures too. but they tell a good story for those that couldn't read. So you got to keep your minds and imagination open when you start looking at the artwork that's on the maps. It's super important.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't just meant to be the cartoon comics of the day.
Yeah.
This isn't the best of maps for to like explain symbolism and stuff, but keep an eye out for them. They for sure are all over the place. A lot of times they'll show star forts before star forts had been brought to that area, or they'll show Native Americans living in structures instead of just teepees.
So
But while we're
for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, can you talk about star forts a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big
So-
one.
some of the older maps depict these star forts, but star forts are meant to defend from an onslaught of different directions and to deflect cannonballs with symmetrical patterns, and but they didn't have any of this stuff. So why were they building forts that supposedly were meant to withstand a cannon blast? It doesn't make sense.
No.
They're all situated in areas where there's like cymatic water gardens, and it's almost like it's I've come to the conclusion personally for myself that this is places where they would re-energize, they would heal, they would grow certain types of food there. Water was treated, in these areas and maybe possibly even sent to other areas. I'm not sure, but I think they were more like spa resorts and healing places than they were fortresses. But I think they were repurposed as fortresses as technology changed and culture changed.
In my
And it's funny you find similar structures or star forts all over the world. And I mean, do you think that the Tartars had something to do with these star forts, or once again was this something that was there before? And
well, how far back?
Technology.
How far back does Tartars go? Jay, can you bring up the NOAA map?
I can. I was going to point out to y'all that part of the map I still had pulled up last. It's depicting the building of the Tower of Babel.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Like that. I was trying to point out certain things. They're depicting events out of the Bible.
Right.
Jay, thank you.
You're welcome. What was the other map you want me to pull up?
I honestly forgot. I'm sorry, buddy.
The NOAA map.
Yes.
NOAA map.
And just while he's
so
pulling
how
that
far-
up, I want to tell you, because there's a star fort in Florida, and where it is and how many bricks are in it, they didn't do this for no reason. They didn't build this out there and spend all that time, which they supposedly, again, built it. The story almost always seems to go a year and a half. A year and a half, they built this. A year and a half, they built this. And it's a giant star fort, and there's millions of bricks sent out to this tiny island at the tip of the Keys or wherever the hell it is. It's way down there, and they built it to defend Florida when they could have just built it before the Keys. Like, back then, nobody lived at the Keys. Why are they putting it way out there? It would have been much more efficient to build it way closer. I don't even know how they got all these bricks out there and built this in a year and a half. It's total nonsense, the story they tell us, why they did it.
None of the math
You're
adds
talking
up
about
here.
Florida.
We'll just say that.
I got a map of Florida pulled up actually while I was searching for the NOAA map real quick.
Ah, yes. Thank you, Jay. So here's the map of fluoride. Jay, is that map in the same post as the
What?
Emperor of fluoride?
No. This is from one. From
Yo,
like
Ted,
months
you got to
back.
get out of there, dog. They're doing something to the water down there.
I know.
Jay, if you could, when you get a second on my Twitter feed, if you could look up Emperor of Fluoride, but Florid, you'll see that they actually wrote about early explorers. They knew that this was a territory called Fluoride. They knew that the Emperor of Fluoride was Tartarian. They wrote he was the Tartarian Emperor of Fluoride. And then they even wrote about subordinate kings, Tartarian kings, that also lived in the area there as well. So it's not that it was never here. It was never on all continents. Tartarians were on all continents, but the Tartarians that were in fluoride actually looked like the Seminole Indians. The Tartarians that were in Mongolia, they looked like Mongolians. The Tartarians that were in China, they looked like Tartarian Chinese people. So Tartarians had all races, all ethnicities, all languages, and they were written to be on every continent at one point, with the exception of Antarctica. They were a global civilization. And when you start looking into things like the underwater sea cables, and you start seeing that they had the whole world wired. So if you want to talk about high technology, was Tartaria a high technological civilization? I believe the answer is yes and no at the same time. Did they want an iPhone? Did they want a fancy Bluetooth speaker? I think at some point they could have made this stuff, but I think they knew better.
Yeah.
I think they almost knew. Yeah, like if you take a tuning fork and tap one tuning fork and you have another one over here, the resonant frequency passes. If you look at these big buildings and the giant bells, are they not also tuning forks and resonant chambers? Would they not be able to communicate more than one way across land or across oceans? I think they were far more technologically advanced than we give them credit for. I don't think they built the buildings, but I think they understood some topics far deeper than us. And we're just at the infancy stage, people like me and you coming to realizations about like frequencies or grounding, yet they were putting magnets on the bottom of their boots 2,300 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
We're just trying. We came from all lies. So, oh, you got it up, Jay?
Yeah, sorry.
Don't. Sorry.
So this is the Emperor of Fluoride.
So formal, bro. Sorry. What is this? No, I'm kidding.
Jay, can you scroll down a little bit more?
It was beat into me. I'm a hybrid. I'm part redneck, part red ass. Well, part so I'm a red ass.
Hey, actually, in real life, I'm a yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. But here, I let loose, man. Let loose. Just let it go.
And down here, it may be written in another language, but you can see it's the Grand Khan of Tartaria.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually in French, and I'd like to point out the owl symbology.
Oh, of course. Always an owl.
Yeah.
But you see, the reason why I pointed out, because the other one is a dragon.
Dragon.
Oh, God, come on. Dragons are real, dinosaurs
I'll
aren't.
teach y'all.
It's the year of the dragon, by the way.
Is it?
Yes, it is. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that ties into a lot of stuff with the eagle and the serpent, by the way.
But as you can see, it's close to what a Native American might be depicted as today. But
Right.
still, they had nobility lines. We don't necessarily talk about it. We say they were chiefs. We totally changed it.
Can we get a triangle on this guy's face here? I don't know. He's looking there.
Hey, I'm with you, Rufus. The more I look back in even the old pictures, like old artwork, so to speak, it's so sus, man. Every bit of
The bitch
it.
with a
Go
mustache.
It
Get out of here.
Go look at Queen Mary, man. That's a whole nother rabbit hole too.
We'll have to have you guys on another time to talk about
I know. I know there's so many things I want to ask, like, because you're a history buff, and Tartaria is awesome, and I want to talk to you about everything about that. So we're going to have you back for a second time. But there's other stuff I want to ask you about too, like just your opinion. Like, so one thing, how do you feel about the story about the Wild West that we're fed? Do you think that ever happened? Do you think it's all nonsense? What do you think about that?
There's some truth to it. Of course, there's always going to be banditos on the outskirts and fringes, but in order for the buildings that popped up when they said they popped up, how they popped up, with no foundries around, no infrastructure, no lumber mills, and to build the grandest of the buildings, to think that your best artisans traveled across the wild, wild west to go out to a place where there was nothing and work with nothing and make the most beautiful out of everything makes absolutely zero sense. To say that the Continental Railroad, the Transcontinental Rail Line, they met up in the middle, it makes no sense at the speed that they say that it was done in. In New Jersey, since I was born, they've been working on Route 46. They're still working on the same spot 40 years later. But with
So
no
true.
dynamite, no power tools, no nothing. But the things they taught about us the hardest, the longest, that we remember the most from public school is the biggest indoctrination points. The Transcontinental Railroad. Think about the the sea cable, the transatlantic sea line. Think about the sinking of the Titanic. I mean, once you get into like the things that stuck out to us the most at those times is usually the most BS. I think
Right.
we spent a lot of time trying to really reset a whole culture to a new narrative because they don't want us to look back. They don't want us to see that it was a battle between good and evil. And I think that's really what it was.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. So basically, it's a bunch of bullcrap.
Yeah. And if you look at like the Great Dust Bowl, I'm sorry, it looks like pictures of a dried up mud flood. It looks like just another excuse to another thing. It's another one of the things that we all remember the pictures ground into our heads from when we were kids. Why do we remember the Dust Bowl, but our kids can't remember the difference on the pH scale, which side is acidic and which side is base? We use that every day.
I know.
How many people know what the number on the bottom of their piece of plastic is? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Like 1, throw it away. 5, you can reuse. Like, but the stuff that we should have remembered, we don't really remember. We don't retain the knowledge. But the biggest stuff, if I remember something from when I was a kid, I immediately go, "Nah, I know that's BS."
Yeah,
I remember those things. That was You're telling me that farmers over farmed and created the Dust Bowl. Yet
I know, but we're not doing it.
everything
now,
we've
right?
done.
Right. Like if you can create the picture in your head about it, it was probably bullshit.
Yes.
That's a good way of putting it.
Well,
Because I remember, like, I have visions in my head of, like, what stuff would have looked like back then, and most of the time it's like that's the stuff that they do. They describe it to you fantastically, and you paint the picture in your head, and then you make the memory yourself.
Jay, I'm never gonna get this right. Can you help me with the millennial reign aspect of this?
Yeah, man. Like, sitting from my perspective, most of Tartaria seems to really affirm that there's been a kingdom that's been erased over time, little by little. A lot of people talk as though it's the Byzantine Empire, but the more you dig deeper into these older books that Keith has been pulling out, they all talk this empire where everyone worshipped God. Like, everyone was free, everyone worked together, and people didn't work together, then they got rid of them because there wasn't many quote unquote laws to live by. You just, you basically lived under the guides of thou shalt not harm, trespass, or transgress against any living being, whether it's a bird, a human being, quote unquote human being, even though Black's Law Dictionary tells us that's a monster, or I should say a man, woman, or child. But be good to people.
That's a whole nother
basically.
episode for sure.
Yeah,
I want to go
it
there
sounds to me
so
like
bad.
it sounds like you're describing Eden has just been getting chewed up over thousands of years.
Well, I mean, when you look at the whole totality of what happened to Tartaria and the erasure of it, it's like the evil empire truly won. And someone had to open the gates, so to speak, for evil to come in like that and manifest across the whole world in such a total force of destruction.
Right.
Yeah, it takes a
And when you look at things like the Statue of Liberty, for instance, and how it looks almost identical to the painting of Lucifer. You look at the chains unbroken. There's so much connective tissue. From the outside, if you're not into this kind of research, then it looks like just wild out of your butt speculation. But once you really start digging through it and you can connect dots for yourself, it's either it was the millennial reign or it was something else entirely. My position, I take as it was the millennial reign.
It take a time when everybody worked together. The Chinese had gunpowder for how long? And they were part of the Tartarian Empire for how long? What did they use that technology for? Celebrations, fireworks, making people smile. As soon as the warlike Europeans found out about it, they were like, oh, we can kill their elephants now. And that was the force multiplier that the Tartarians had, was their war elephants. Sometimes the elephants were depicted 3 across, with a building supported by 3 elephants at a time. That's a big building loaded with archers and other types of whatever warlike things they wanted to carry. These were the feared animals of the day, and that's pretty much where the beginning of the downfall of Tartaria came from, was when their technology that they had used for good was reverse engineered against them and used for war. But that was the first time when war elephants were really able to be taken down easily, and that's about the beginning of the downfall. The production of muskets at a produced pace, the Industrial Revolution, supposedly, is the Tartarians stuck to one way, and they ended up losing. I also do think it had something to do with like a biological warfare, even if it was just smallpox on blankets, things like that. Probably contributed heavily to it, because we admitted to a bunch of it with the North and South Native American tribes, but we can get into that at another point.
Yeah, that's crazy. Thanks for addressing that, man, because I was gonna ask about how you think that they were able to divide, this idea, because it seemed, I mean, the evidence shows that this was a worldwide, or almost nearly worldwide idea. And I don't know why, but my vision of, the Tartars and just kind of their utopian style society and their technology, it always makes me think that they would like somehow be able to stop any outside attacks like telepathically or something like that. Like they have that almost kind of higher enlightenment. Was there any evidence for that, or?
Hey, real quick, Ted.
Yeah.
Y'all want to see what one of the elephants with the riders look like? I got the picture pulled up.
Oh, hold on. Let me switch it to this too, so it's it's not really any bigger, but all right.
Yeah, this was a.
Can you scroll down a little bit? Is that the whole picture? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Damn.
Notice it's for Emperor Kubla.
Kubla.
He's the grandson of
and Tartars. Sorry, what were we saying, Keith?
He was the grandson of Genghis Khan. I believe he's also the one that built that canal we were talking about earlier, Kublai Khan.
Can just real quick, can we for 1 second talk about the fact that if I post any kind of Tartaria post, someone says, "You're an idiot. That never happened." Blah, blah, blah. There's literally receipts right here that says Tartars and a picture.
Right.
So, in the nicest way possible,
erased,
check yourself, people, please. Because just because you've never heard of it does not mean it doesn't exist.
Dude, that's so cool. And you've seen images almost exactly like this pictured in movies and Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah, yes. Just without the Tartar part.
Yeah.
This
almost
also looks like something from 300 with the freaking whoever comes in.
Well, if you think about the Battle of the 300, when the East was attacking the West, that was at the time when they were Tartarian. So the elephants and the grand things that you saw, I think, are them rubbing it in our face. But if you also go back, think of Star Wars. Star Wars was a futuristic movie that supposedly took place a long, long time ago. Yeah. The Queen Amidala from Star Wars is openly admitted to be modeled after the last princess of Tartaria.
Oh, yeah, I even wanted to ask you about that. I remember
the Mongolian princess.
You posted about that, right? I saw that.
Oh, yo, Jason, can you go back to that picture with the elephants just real quick? I wanted to touch base on something from that picture too. I couldn't help but notice they look like dragon heads, but what is it? A griffin? Is that what those are called, or what's the symbology behind that and the Tartarian?
That's
I guess
what
it was on the flag, right?
Well, I accidentally opened up OBS. My apologies, guys. Right here on the center.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, the spiritual warfare is real today. Seriously. All right. Right here. That's a dragon one right there, and as well as that one. But I think that one's something entirely different. I think that one's potentially a griffin there. I could be wrong.
Yeah, what? So what is a griffin, and why is that associated with the Tartars?
That's wasn't that one of their official animals that they created?
I don't know if they created it, but they for sure used it as a symbol of it, of their power, of their royal lineage. It was almost like the American bald eagle is for America today. The griffin was for Tartaria back then. It was their symbol, like that.
For
that was
anyone who doesn't
their
know what a griffin
animal.
is, can you describe it?
That would be the body of a lion with the head of a bird with talons, a sharp beak.
Could they fly?
Supposedly, yeah.
And is this like something that was created like out of a mythological standpoint, or did they believe this is real?
We're told they're mythological, but I can't 100% agree to that, because we once thought the dodo bird was mythological because it had been hunted to extinction by sailors, and then all of a sudden, once the bird was extinct 100 years later, just 100 years, scientists were saying it's probably fabled, it didn't exist. Look, it had funny colors, pink and blue, and it couldn't fly. It can't be real. And then they found one buried outside of a zoo in like Sweden or something like that, and they're like, oh, apparently it is real. Thousands of writers wrote about griffins. Not thousands, but hundreds of nations have mentioned it in writings, whether small or large. To me, it's real.
The thing that slightly scares me about that is that we know that the Nephilim mated with animals also and caused some weird hybrids and crap. So maybe that's one of them. I don't know. That thing's weird.
Yes,
I don't know, man.
Oh, and well, you know, on the ancient Chinese zodiac calendar, the whole entire calendar is made out of real animals, except for what year is it? It's the year of the dragon, and that's the only allegedly mythological creature. And one thing else I wanted to point out, isn't there? I'm sure you guys probably already know and can pull it up, but isn't there some sort of like Russian war crest that has them like a dagger going through the griffin,
stomping out the griffin or something like that?
Yeah, I believe that's the Russian coat of arms. Because they're founded on the defeat of Tartaria.
And if that doesn't admit it to you right there, I mean, what else does?
So Napoleon, when Napoleon went to attack the capital of Russia, he attacked the wrong place. Anybody ever notice that? Moscow was not the capital of Russia when Napoleon was in power. St. Petersburg was. Moscow was 200 miles down a different road. They made a wrong turn and forgot to recalculate. But then all of a sudden they made a mistake. They minted a few coins that congratulated the work together of Napoleon and Nicholas, the Tsar of Russia, commemorative coins for the battle that they had joined together. There's paintings of them kissing each other passionately, paintings of them sitting down with a map, planning the attack together. Yet we're told that they accidentally attacked Moscow, which wasn't even the capital of Russia back then. Like, we don't talk about a military blunder that huge, but it's because Russia and France were teaming up together to attack Tartaria. That was the beginning of the downfall of Tartaria. Started slightly before that, but then it continued. Russia was going eastward. The warlike colonists were going westward across the Americas, and they met where they met. That's why Russia was on the east coast of America, in California and in Alaska. They had forts. Why would you have forts built there unless you were defending from something or attacking something? You just crossed through Siberia to build forts?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense. So, but also, what happened during the Civil War? Where did Russia land? In San Francisco and New York. They sent fleets, but Wikipedia says the only two belligerents were the North and the South. Yet the first person to die in battle was shot by a French soldier in the South upon the confiscation of a Confederate flag. Yet, if you look up the Pennsylvania 114th Regiment, you'll see that that was an all-Turkish regiment that actually marched around with turbans on. Their band that followed them also wore turbans. They look like Tartarians, if you ask me. But it goes on and on and on. How many different belligerents were active? They had Irish brigades and French brigades and Spanish brigades. It was a global war. Like, it was literally different nationalities, different nations, different languages, all here. And then we rewrote it as nobody else was here. And this was a completely domestic thing. Yet if you look at all the things that add up to it, that was the downfall of Tartaria. Tartaria was on all continents, and the battles are just aimed different. Like, France didn't attack Russia. They attacked Moscow, which was in Tartaria at the time. Jay, if you could bring up one of the maps, like Tartaria in Europe for my profile, you'll see that at one point, 1/3 at least of Europe was labeled Tartaria. And I think that was only in like the 1600s. But we failed to mention this in our modern everyday teachings that we put in our public institutions.
Of course we do. We can't be teaching people stuff like that. Come on now.
The benevolent empire was taken down. And one other link to Star Wars, if you think about Princess Leia's hairdo, it's the same as a North American Hopi Indian. North American Indians, as you saw from the King of Fluoride, they were Tartarian. They claimed to be Tartarian. They were written as Tartarian. And it all changed right around the 20th century. Right around the year 1900, they started rewriting everything and changing everything. It is devastating because it's the one thing we all share in common. What happened to us? Who are we? And why can't we remember?
I got that map pulled up.
Appreciate you, Jay.
Absolutely.
So do you think it was actually Christopher Columbus that discovered America?
Yeah, but Columbus actually was searching a trade route to Tartaria, according to the oldest books. He wasn't searching for the East Indies. He was searching to get to where China was, where the Mongolian Empire, the Tartarian Empire, was known to have loads of gold and everything. And Jay, I know you've been working hard, but if you could pull that up at some point, Columbus, Tartaria.
I knew it had something to tie in here. So what do you think he found when he got here?
Columbus actually believed he had discovered the Garden of Eden. Columbus actually that this was the only place on Earth that the Hesperian fruit had ever been discovered. But the Hesperian fruit today is written that it was a golden apple. But back in the day, a Hesperian fruit was an orange.
What is that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I was hearing it too, though.
Was that a Bell video?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My car came alive when I accidentally touched the gas pedal.
Oh.
Came alive.
Elon.
It's Elon. Yeah.
Yeah, be careful, dude.
Now, Jay, there's no way I could be able to read that, but if that's the post, could you please read that for me, brother?
I got you, brother.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We will now return to Columbus and his efforts to obtain aid for the purpose of carrying out his theories and convictions. The king and queen, despite the decision of the learned men of Salamanca, saw the advantage to be derived from the discovery of a new and direct route to the Indies. And if successful, the gain would be incalculable, as the kingdom of the Grand Khan of Tartary was supposed to abound in gold, silver, and precious stones, and to contain exhaustible wealth, which would inure to the benefit of Spain. They also saw that such a discovery would add to the glory of their reign and their country, and aid in the extension of their Christian faith. And fearing that Columbus might seek the assistance of some other government, they promised him that his project should receive attention as soon as the Moors were conquered and expelled from Granada.
Oh, yeah. More of the expo at 1492. Once they finally get the Tartarians out of Spain, they want to find a trade route. It's all there. Like, history is so skewed, and we look at some modern books, and this is why I say I refuse to read anything modern. Anything after 1871, I'm not reading it because it doesn't make sense, and it's only like adding pollution to my mind. All of these old books, when I combine them up in my head, it's a plausible story. What I'm fed from the modern day narrative, it drives me insane. It makes me like go crazy because it doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. But what they had written down in the past seems to make a lot of sense to me.
I think a huge part of that is that they sell you something, and if you'll believe it, then they know they got you. If they can sell you this ridiculous story and you buy into it, they got you. Look at what they're trying to sell you today. And if they can get you to admit that there's no gender, that every white person is extremely racist, or whatever ridiculous statement they can get you to accept, then they got you. If you say that, then they can pass anything off on you. And I feel like that's part of that same thing. If they can get you to accept that nonsense that doesn't make any sense, like you said, anything after whatever year you said, it makes no sense, and we all know that. And that's why a lot of us in school were like, I can't listen to this. Like, this is garbage. You just tuned it out. A lot of stuff, history and a lot of the science. Like, I did great in a lot of stuff, but science, like the regular Earth space science, I was like, this is fucking bullshit, man. I can't listen to this. Just getting past it. But so anyway, I just think that they feed us that when we're super young, because if they can get us to accept that, if they can get us to agree with total nonsense, then they have us, and they can just keep laying it on thicker from there.
Yep.
Now, do you know what an act of Congress is? Like, it pretty much like if a book.
I think so, but yes, tell me.
If a book is enacted into Congress, Congress is pretty much saying that this is legit, a historical book. So if you look at the book, Ancient America, the 24th edition, I think it was written in 1852 and enacted into Congress in 1852. That book clearly states and mentions that our Congress, our government, clearly believes that there was an enlightened, mechanically advanced civilization in North America that predated the North American Indians, the Tartarians. So, but this is enacted into Congress in several different books. If you look at just go to your Google search bar and just search, why did 19th century historians believe the lost tribes were discovered in America? Like Jay knows this one real well. Pocahontas was known to be of the lost 10 tribes. They thought she was so special, they actually took her over to England, or over to Europe to go meet the nobility. She was thought to have been a descendant of Abraham. They wrote whole books on this. And Jay, if you could bring up Pocahontas from my feed, any of the posts. But also, if you look at how she was drawn, the depictions of her, which are in the Smithsonian Institute, which is garbage, the archive, our Congressional Archive, I forget the name of it now. But you'll see that history is definitely not what we were told. We knew that the Tartarians and the lost tribes of Israel had melded together and inevitably settled in North America. They know that they practiced the laws of Moses, circumcision, the Sabbath, down to what some of the tribes had named their god. Jehovah sounds like Jehovah. The similarities, or we were taught that when we saw those old Native American black and white films when we were kids, the Wild Wild West, we'd see the Indians dancing around the fire, and everybody out there that with any Native American ancestry, I mean, no disrespect, but you'd always hear them go, hi-ya, ya, ya, hi-ya, ya, ya. But in the old books, they recorded it as hallelujah, hallelujah.
Whoa.
Just a little tiny change makes such a huge, ginormous difference. But yeah, the Tartarians were in North America. They had melded with the lost tribes. 19th century historians wrote thousands of books on the topic, and a lot of them were enacted into Congress because we knew it to be a fact. But then we let the historical societies, like these private institutions that are run by our government elites, like the Smithsonian, come in and distort the whole thing that fits a narrative that allows them to steer society in a way that is less benevolent than it was and allows people to accept more and more degeneracy. If you destroy someone's past and tell them how bad it was, they'll be okay with a not so good future in the distant future. But if you tell everybody, Look how beautiful these buildings were. Look how healthy these people were. Look, obesity was almost non-existent. Cancer, 1 in 20,000. In 25 years, they're expecting it to be 50%. Like, if people knew how good it was, they would look backwards and then try to mimic it going forwards, which would totally undo what the world elite are doing to us. They don't want critical free thinkers. They don't want people questioning the narrative. They don't want people having tight family bonds. They don't want mothers baking pies with their kids. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I bake pies all the time, by the way, to all the moms out there. I am a mom. I have my own apron.
Living the dream. He's got a Tesla. He's got a stay-at-home dad, man.
I will just tell you, I don't
but I'm
know.
poor.
I don't know. I don't know where you live, and you don't need to say it on here. But if we're ever in the same area, we gotta grab a drink, even if it's water.
Dude, I was care, just man. Thinking like, that, man. I was like, I would just love to just chill with Keith and James
Poconos, Pennsylvania.
Shit about this, man.
I was like, yes.
Come up to the Poconos.
Yeah, I've been.
The same thing.
That's one of the few places I've never been in this country.
Oh, it's
hey,
beautiful.
By the way, guys,
people are different.
I got the Pocahontas picture pulled up, and one little other fun fact that hallelujah part. Well, at the end, the Yah, and that's part of the name of God right there.
Yep,
they snuck in there.
Yeah. Right, it's pretty important too to know his name.
That is good point. Great point. And dude, that's cool that you're bringing up Pocahontas too. It kind of led me on to something that I wanted to bring up, and maybe it ties into this too. But you don't really have to go too far. Like Ted said, I really always wanted to go to that place. Well, if you can't go to that place now, I encourage everyone to kind of research around their own area, because this is something that I found out recently, and I've lived, in this area and most of my life. But Pocahontas is actually a county in Iowa where it allegedly has like the most fertile farmland in the whole entire United States. And also, I just found out that Iowa is just kind of like a mother lode of Tartarian infrastructure, or a lot of different old type of buildings like that. And I can't wait to, I live pretty close to there, and I can't wait to go adventure into some of the places that I've discovered. I knew there was a little bit there, but I recently found out that it's just like a central hub for that kind of stuff.
I want to join you so bad.
Marietta, Ohio, but from 19th century historians all the way down to the Gulf is like the cradle of old lost civilization. And they knew that it was mechanically advanced. They knew that I think they guesstimated it to be about 6,000 years old just by how much debris had built up on top of the city streets and how far down columns and pillars were found. I mean, literally finding 30-foot pillars buried 16 feet below the ground. And these old books, like if you go to my profile and you just look up history book, you'll see that they knew the largest pyramid in America was in America in the 1700s. They knew it was the Cahokia Mounds in Illinois. They knew that it was 14 acres at the base. And they knew that it had more square cubic footage than any other pyramid ever. And plus, they knew that it was so old, as they tried to dig into it, the bricks would fall apart like dirt. They knew that this was old. They knew that there's more pyramids in North America than the rest of the world combined. So the whole thing
you don't ever hear about that. You don't ever hear about pyramids being, it's only Egypt. No. Like Egypt is where the pyramids.
There's some in Alabama,
like
right?
Shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there is. There's some in Alabama, right?
There's Moundville in Alabama.
That's what I was talking about.
There's a quick story about Moundville. There's
I'll pop that back up.
One of the there's one of the mounds that has a church on top of it, and it's really tall. And I went there.
I thought that was going to be your whole story. Sorry.
I went there.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. And it was real tall. I was like,
it was real big. That's a big old hill.
All right.
Anyways.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, okay. So I was standing on top of the hill, and I shifted over to my right, and it was noticeably warmer in that one spot, right? There wasn't clouds or anything in the sky. It was a clear day. And it was noticeably warmer in that one spot. Step out, and it would not be as warm. But it was like just one spot where you could stand on top of that hill where it was noticeably warmer than the rest of the hill or anywhere else outside. It was super weird. And that was right around when I was starting to get into flat earth stuff. And I was like, dude, the sun's right fucking there, man.
There could be some like frequency energy passing through.
I'm sure if it was hotter there,
that's probably why you're so handsome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like
you
the
have
most...
to say no homo after that, Rufus.
Oh no, it's totally homo.
No, I feel
that's like the.
Go ahead.
That's the most supernatural thing I've ever experienced, apart from crazy psychedelic experiences, I guess.
Hey Keith, did you tell Ted anything about what the original Aborigines, according to these books, were described?
Oh, the Aborigines? Yeah. Can you bring it up?
I got it already right here.
This is pretty good. This is what the earliest writings of what the Aboriginals or Aborigines looked like in America.
Fun fact, Adam originally translated into "he who blushes."
Read that for us, Jay.
Yeah, here, let me zoom back out a little bit.
Sorry, it's small on my screen.
Yeah, no, you're good. Bit with the pale face race, or with any not of their own blood, we write of the Aborigines as they were, and of the mass. They may be on the frontiers, some solitary exceptions after their acquaintance with the Anglo-Saxon race, but often they're among the women than the men. This arises not from less virtue than in the opposite sex, but with shame, be it written, from the seduction, treachery, and desertion by the European. Most truly might a chieftain reply to a missionary who endeavored to convert a tribe, quote, "Teach us. What? My son has been murdered, my daughter ravished by the white man. Learn first yourselves to obey the mandates of humanity and prove that we do not practice them. Then come among us to preach or teach, and we will receive you with open arms. We shall meet again upon this condition. On earth, white men, never," unquote. The marriage of the Virginian Aboriginal Pocahontas was after her baptism in the Christian faith and consequently cannot be brought to bear against the preceding remarks. Many other religious customs and ceremonies exist of a minor character, yet strictly in analogy with the race of Abraham. But enough has been brought forward in this volume to propose these, as we believe, unanswerable questions, quote, "If they are not of the lost tribes of Israel, who are they?" unquote. Quote, "What nation of ancient history can claim and identify these customs and observances as their own, if not the Hebrew?" unquote.
Whoa.
Yeah, what 19th century historians thought about the... You got to remember, they were here when there was more Native Americans speaking their native tongue, with more oral traditions that had been passed down, that hadn't been eliminated, lost. The telephone game, where it changed and altered, it for sure was different than what we are told. Because think about this: if in 1609, 1606 was the first colony, Jamestown, in North America. If it wasn't for the Indians coming and giving pumpkins and corn and all, well, wait, if they're nomadic and they live in teepees and they're traveling around, how are they growing pumpkins? Where'd the corn come from if they didn't have agriculture? And in order to have agriculture, you have permanent residences. Where are the permanent residences? If you go back to the oldest books, you'll see that they were estimated to be 50 feet wide, 25 feet across. They had X amount of rooms in them. They even had temples which were guarded by priests with eternal fires that were lit. The oldest stories are so much different than what we've been taught.
Everything is.
Everything is so
different. So
that's why they had to fill us up with so much entertainment to distract us from
bread and circuses,
our own curiosity. You know, our curiosity would have led us to find this a long time ago if it weren't such a entertainment-focused culture.
We're almost rolling up on 2 hours, and people have short attention spans. But I want to ask you a few things that we covered a lot in Tartaria. And first of all, I want to I want to put you on the spot because I want to make you feel awkward and make you feel like you have to say yes. Will you commit now to coming back even if it's later this week or something, to do more, to do a second part or later down the line or whatever, because there's so much I want to ask you. Like, I feel like we can't get it all in one episode.
Yeah, I would love to, and I would love to come more prepared next time. Now, I've never used this service before, but really, you're going to get much more out of me if me and Jay can do it together.
Oh, no,
and
that's
need him to jump in a little bit more.
Both of you guys.
Dude, exactly.
Yeah, if we could,
you're both always even if you told me, hey man, I found some crazy shit. I gotta get it out. Text me at 2 a.m. or message me at 2 a.m. I'll set up a stream the next day. We'll do it. I don't care. This has been mind blowing to me. I love when I learn stuff that I've never heard before, and that's just amazing to me. So if you want a little time to prepare and get more stuff, Jason's more than welcome to come back with you, help you through it, help you get the stuff put up. That's awesome. But I just want to ask you a few more things before you go about just stuff off the topic. So where do you stand on God?
Oh,
I know that's a big question, but I just want to
know. For 38 years of my 41 on this planet, I didn't believe in God.
Oh my God.
I broke my
Hold on. Stop right now. Just stop, dude. So you're 41, and for 38 years, you didn't believe in God. That's almost my exact story. Maybe add 2 years on that. Maybe, but maybe not even. I'm 41, and I was atheist my entire life until I found Flat Earth. And not even right away when I found Flat Earth. Like, once I started coming to it, and then was like, oh my God, 100%, it's flat. There has to be a creator. That's it. I don't care what you call it. I don't care about any of that. Somebody created this, and it's a beautiful place, so that someone who created it is good. That's all I need to know. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It just shocked me that you said we're the same age, and it was almost the same time. That's crazy. I hear that a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, I was 38. I got hit by a car in the peak of COVID. I had a broken neck, so I was told I was never going to walk again. I was really messed up, and I got angry, and I started like, oh, if you're a real God, blah blah blah. Like, show me you're real. I've been looking for answers my whole life. Show me one answer I've been looking for, and I'll believe you're real. And then all of a sudden, I started trolling flat earthers.
Yeah. Dude. There it goes.
So it took about a week of trolling but I wasn't trolling flat earthers the way the trolls troll. Like, I was just trying to help people understand that they were wrong. And I learned really quickly that I knew nothing about either model. And then it dawned on me, oh my God, the world is flat. And I went into a deep depression for about 3 months, sitting on a porch, going like, I need a surgery. And I'm told if this doesn't work, I'm never going to walk again. God, if you're real, since you did that, show me, like, let me walk in blah, 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 blah. And, yeah, everything that I had asked for came to fruition. And then all the information that was, give me the answer to this, this, and this. Like, I started remembering quotes out of books I hadn't read in 20 years. That weird book thing that I was telling you guys about started clicking in. It was just like a computer adding up that it was like, oh, this ties to this with this, with this, with this, with this at this time. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I am. But it all tied to proving to me over and over and over again. At one point, I had sat there and went, man, it'd be real nice to find a book about, Tartarians talking about the firmament. And then boom, all of a sudden I start finding books where they're like, yeah, we live under a firmament. This is what it is.
I noticed that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just, I'm resonating so much with what you're saying, because I found that in my personal life. Like, if I spoke it, if I said the words to God or just spoke them out there, it started happening. That's why we're here talking to you right now, is because I did that same thing you did. Man, I really wish this would happen, or this is gonna happen. That's when I started getting better at it. This is gonna happen, and saying it, but not just grounding and putting it out there, but like in prayer, talking to God. This is what's gonna happen, and it changed my life. So to hear you say that same thing is just awesome to me. Sorry.
I was a homeless atheist who got hit by a car. And the doctor that put me back together again is going to marry me next year. We just moved into a house together.
That's awesome, dude.
Oh,
She wasn't raising her kids in a godly manner, but literally her kids will come to us. Now, do you guys hear the words, "Is this song okay?" And like her kids are asking questions. One of the two kids has asked, "Can we go to church?" And he's like, I'm not a big fan of going to a brick and mortar, but yes, let's go hear the bells. We're gonna find one with bells.
yes.
So
Yes.
Hell yeah.
we're doing good in that area, and just things started to come together. So like extra wholesome. Like we don't buy snacks from the store with food coloring, and we watch our ingredients. And the kids talk like there's not one television that works in our house. The kids had all the bad apps removed from their phone, and they don't even have access to Google. But at the same time, I'll sell my motorcycle to buy you a golf cart to go drive around the neighborhood so you can go from A to B. Like we'll make life good, but just in the better ways. So yeah, I 100% believe in God now. Every day it's affirmed to me more and more. Now when I pray, I start to turn into the Grinch with the smile that just springs up on my face naturally, and it feels so good.
Dude, please.
But yeah, I've only believed in God for 3 years now.
Keep in touch with me. Please, like, just talking to you makes me feel better. Like, I just resonate with everything you're saying, man. It's just what you're doing. It's when you start to find the truth, it's a chain reaction. You want to better one more thing in your life, and then you're like, okay, I want to better one more thing, and oh, that made me feel better. Let me better one more thing, and then you're cutting out cable, and then you're cutting out this, and you're cutting out all this other garbage, and you're getting down to what's important, and you're growing food, and you're doing stuff that you're supposed to be doing. And the more you do of that, the more your soul goes, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you want to do more of it. And it's crazy. If you spoke to me 15 years ago, I would call myself a damn hippie. I literally would. I would be like, you can't put thoughts out there and make stuff happen. You can't grow enough food in your house in the city where you can eat off of it. You can't do any of that. And that's because that's what they told us. All of that is what they told us to make us never feel like we can sustain ourselves without them. And let me tell you, you can grow enough food in a 10 by 10 area to feed your whole family. Start doing it. I did. Start doing it. It's easy for me because there's only 2 of us, but just start doing it. It helps. It's better for you. And don't buy your seeds from Home Depot or something like that. Order them online from a non-modified seed place. You can find them. There's many websites. Just do the research, find good seeds, grow good food.
And start doing it, man, because you can't wait for the perfect moment, or it's just never going to be there. And you can't expect you're going to do it perfect. Maybe you'll make some mistakes.
And you'll save money.
You learn from that. You learn from that, too.
Me and Jay were talking about the whole seed thing. We got an idea that all the organic fruit seeds, like when we go shopping, we're going to start saving them. And we got a Tartarian cherry tree on the way. I'll get into that in a
Tartarian?
Yeah, we're literally trying to, if we go for a hike down a hiking trail, we're going to toss fruit seeds as we walk. Anybody that messages us, like, we're going to send the seeds out to them. Like, we want everybody to plant them anywhere. Plant them on the side of the highway. Just for the next generation, let's get something going, because plant it today can't hurt anybody tomorrow.
Also, don't buy their nonsense that it's hard to grow food. You have to get the perfect condition and blah, 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 and plants don't want to grow. Don't buy that. It's very easy. There are things you have to do, but it's very easy. So just do it. Just try it. I assure you it works. The plants always find a way. Life finds a way. Just
they're resilient.
Yeah.
Super resilient. And it just keeps on giving, too. I don't know if you've seen a video recently, and I've been doing this for a long time, but you can literally take like the bottom of a lettuce. If you buy the lettuce that's still has the kind of like the root bulb attached, And then after you cut the lettuce off, you put it in a glass of water with some toothpicks or a skewer or something, and it'll literally grow another head of lettuce out of it.
You can
and
do
it
that
works
with onion,
celery and onions, garlic, all sorts of different things.
But
so
if you're
can
gonna do
use
it,
that to get you through while the next harvest is, you're waiting on the next harvest.
if you're gonna do it, buy your stuff from a farmer's market that you're gonna use or something like that, like to make sure. Or I mean, honestly, I don't even try, because down here we have Publix. That's a nice store. You go other places, there's a ton of stuff, but it's like, I don't trust what their labels say. They're like, oh, it's organic. I don't care if it's more money. I'll pay for that if it's really organic, but I don't even trust that. So I'm like, I'm going to go an hour away to a farmer's market where the Mennonites are growing it themselves, and that's where I'm going to pick it up from. That's what I'll use.
Yeah, you got to go directly to the source, because these organic companies are being bought by the conglomerates.
Yeah.
And so you'll see organic, and then hidden underneath in small fine print is they're putting the appeal, wax protectant on there. Or, what else? Like Bill Gates's company, along with a couple other, like, bought up the Bragg brand, who does a lot of really good organic products.
Yeah.
And now a lot of people, they didn't even know that Bill Gates purchased and took it over, but people started complaining that, what's going on with this apple cider vinegar? It tastes like it doesn't taste the same anymore, and it tastes watered down, and you never know what they're putting in there. And they're the ones probably paying off the people who give you the organic certification in the first place.
You can't trust any of it, man.
Nobody's testing that shit.
I was so happy to move to Amish country. People are like, you're really going to move to Amish country? Yeah.
That's amazing.
The butchers that are local. My wife, on her way to work, she passes 3 roadside stands that are not attended by human beings. She can do all of her vegetable and produce shopping to and from work and not even speak to another person. Just leave a couple of bucks that she thinks is fair in a jar.
Yep.
Like,
I know.
Yes, dude, that's the same with me, man. I was going to these places, and they literally speak about a high trust society, and they literally, it's just a store that you go in. There's not even anyone in there, and all the goods are in there, and there's a little box sitting on top of the table that tells you to write your own receipt and just put the money in the box.
It's awesome, and you do. And when I've done that, I've even put more. Because I was like, this is awesome. Like, yes.
Dude, I wish everywhere was like this, man. This is what life should really be like.
If it was like that, think of how many people would take advantage of that. And that sucks, man. That sucks. I'm so not like that. And it sucks that people are. Bums me out.
Sucks. And they're just coming after that, too. I shared with you, Ted, this Amish farm that I was able to purchase raw dairy products from online, and they ship it to you, and they're coming down on them, and they can't ship them anymore.
Yep, my cousin too. He was getting raw milk from luckily he found another place. I'm not going to say where it is because I don't want, even though only like 500 people listen to this, I don't want to bring any heat on a place that could get it shut down. But he found another place, awesomely enough, but they made it a federal offense to bring raw milk across a state line. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's so dumb. They're like, the germs.
Isn't it also a law that you can't catch or divert your own rainwater on your own property?
You have to get a permit to collect rainwater.
Yeah, what do your gutters do? They divert it, don't they?
Yeah, that's weird.
We're all on a federal violation.
Hey, here's another stupid law, and it actually ties into Tartaria. You can't dig down any further than 16 feet on your own property.
Watch me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, that's crazy. That's insane.
You're going to have a troll. He's going to have a troll show up in his backyard with a shovel and like 2 monkeys to film it so he can get 5 seconds of fame.
That's awesome.
These guys are sickening, man. Anything that is good for you is demonized. Yep. And even yourself, man. The byproduct of us breathing is the same thing that they're trying to tax everyone on. So it essentially breaks down to the climate change agenda is actually a tax on breathing, because that's something that we all do. and the byproduct of that is what they say is.
I don't
cause
breathe
of
cow
global
farts,
warming.
bro. All right,
You-
that's it's
Your
only
breath
cow
might
farts.
smell like it, but yeah.
Hey, that's what I've been trying to tell people like for a while now. Like the carbon tax, it's coming. It's technically already snuck in with a lot of products already, you know. But the actual legit, straight up in your face carbon tax, they've been talking about it at the UN for how many years now? I mean, it's just eventual now.
Long time. Imagine being one of the people that signs up for one of those credit cards that keeps track of your carbon footprint. Like
Oh.
you're just getting
Yeah,
right in line. It's crazy.
Let's not go there. I'm talking from a Tesla right now. Like I left the ultimate smack on my own face.
Yeah,
But I
you
was
know,
forced into it from an accident. I really was.
that's a
but-
different story. Like I posted a thing the other day about Tesla's like electric cars because they're coming out with hydrogen now. Like they're just passing by it. And actually, I think you commented on something about it too. And someone else was like, oh, well, I have one because of this, and that. And I was like, I'm totally cool with that if you're buying it for a reason and you are aware that you're not saving the world by buying a Tesla. Just like, don't buy it because you think it's better for the environment, because it is not better for the environment in the long run. But if it's a purpose and you are, as a consumer, want it, more power to you. I have no problem with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
go
but
into it with eyes open, you know?
Your post about it was actually it was very nicely worded for Tesla. How beautifully you painted the picture, because it's far worse than that.
Yeah.
It literally, like I hit a pothole, blew out an airbag. Well, it was actually a ditch. It took 5 months to get the car back. You know, imagine paying for a rental for 4 months because insurance only covers one, and literally you just can't get the part. And then my mileage came back. It was the wrong mileage. There wasn't enough miles on my car. Miles disappeared. 20,000 miles disappeared off my car. And I was like, how does the car have less mileage than the title?
If you ever
But
want
I
to
was
sell
like,
it, you just screwed yourself.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, if it goes backwards,
Maybe they
it can
just gave you a
also go
different car.
forward.
They couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, you're right. If it jumps
I was thinking
back,
they might have Ferris Buellered it on you, but it's the opposite way.
I owed Tesla $5 from a charging thing because I sat too long. I normally charge for free, but I sat too long, so I got an idle fee. So every time I went to a charger after that, it slowed me down to like, it's going to take 2 days to charge your car. We want our $5.
wow.
Like, just imagine, like, there's just like,
That's
you
a
owe a couple
slippery
dollars.
slope,
Dude, that's a
man.
new one right there. That's like the CBDC of cars you got
Yeah.
right there, dog.
Yes, it's far worse than people think it is. That they're if you need one because you don't have legs and you can't drive right, I get it. I'm in that situation myself. I mean, I have legs, but I have neurological problems. So, I mean, I get it. But if you think you're doing something good for the environment, you're one of the worst offenders on the planet. It's a horrible vehicle to own, not just for the damage to the planet, but it's a horrible vehicle to own until they get like supply lines down and they actually have like a system set up. It's nice that you can sell a car, but if you can't work on the car, fix the car, you know, maintain the car, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You can't even call a regular tow truck for them. They're too heavy.
That blows my mind that they're too heavy when they don't have a internal combustion engine in them. Blows my mind. Insane.
It's like a 1,000 horsepower car that weighs like 6,000 plus pounds. Imagine what you do to your tires.
Wow.
Like, you know, that's the Model S Plaid, but I could go through a set of tires a week in the car, you know, and they don't even make tires for the car that handle the speed of the car. They
Why
can't
is it
even
so
come
heavy?
up with the battery.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's still the fastest production car on Earth. So, I mean, if you're looking for like a speed thing or a status symbol, like, yeah, great, go get a Tesla. But if you think you're like a tree hippie, you're saving the planet, you know, the whales are important, like, no, you're actually doing far more damage to those animals. Go buy a hybrid if you really feel that strongly about it. But hydrogen should have been the way Tesla went. He honestly wasn't really trying to do good for the future, because if he was, he would have went hydrogen instead of battery.
He's just selling his environmental credits or whatever. He even said it somewhere. I saw him. I can't remember, and I wish I saved the clip, but he was like, Oh yeah, like we don't make money off cars. We make money off selling our environmental credits. Like there you go. Like because they don't need them, they sell them to other companies.
Oh, they sell them to other companies.
Yeah, other
that
car
have to,
companies
offset
that need
their carbon or something.
Exactly.
Probably China.
Yeah,
Oh,
actually, probably. He never said where. My mind went to other car companies, but you're right. Probably China.
Who's the biggest polluter of everyone? They're gonna have to be buying a lot of those.
He knows.
Things,
Don't buy his crap, especially when he wants to put chips in your brain. But we are over 2 hours. Well, there was a little bit in the beginning, so we're probably right at about 2 hours. But we already got you both agreeing to come back, right? We got you too, Jay, saying you come back.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll figure it out soon. You can get more stuff. And God, it was so awesome having you guys here. But I think this is where we have to say, Death faded out.
Faded out.
Thank you so much.
Dude,
I honestly,
so cool,
I
man.
don't think I've ever come upon new thoughts so much in any episode that we've ever done. Like, you said things that I was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. Oh my God, I never thought of that. That's never happened on that scale. So thank you, man. Like, I knew I liked you.
I'll point out that this dude thinks a lot too. So to do that is pretty impressive.
We've tried to put it out in a 12-hour space. It's not enough time. There's too much. If you guys want to like try to work it out, like, you know, slowly over time, let me and Jay come up with a plan, and maybe we can
do it. Yes, we would be happy to facilitate you guys getting that out to as many people as we can. We don't have a huge following, but we'll help get it out for sure.
And vice versa. Yeah, we want to work with you guys any way we can too.
Awesome. So everybody, do us a favor. Follow this dude and that dude over there. Follow them. And thank you guys so much for being here. We will talk to you guys soon. We had such a good time. Thank you so much. Anything either one of you want to say? Jason, Keith, anything?
The earth is flatter than a pancake, my friend.